Yo, 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 it's X, and today I have a special guest. This young man is a very crazy, cool young man. I can't describe this guy other than elite. All right. He's a dope rower. He's a hilarious person. It's the man, Clark Dean. How you doing, Clark?
Pretty good, pretty good. Thank you for the introduction. You really gassed me up here. No, it's
Oh, without a doubt, without a doubt. I
good to
gotta
be
gas you
hyped
up.
up. Yeah, yeah. No, I get it. I respect it. I appreciate it.
So, Clark, I will tell you, I do have to coach a lot of middle schoolers and a lot of high schoolers. And you are
hmm
like, I don't even know. I can't even describe. Somehow every kid, every young kid knows you in the sport of rowing. How does that feel? Does that feel kind of weird?
yeah. I mean, it's like what's funny to me is like whatever my I guess well-knownness is in our weird small sport of rowing.
Yeah.
I can't like even imagine what it must be like for like someone like Zion Williams or someone who's like good at a sport that's like actually popular and well known. I just like I can't even imagine because there's still like it always surprises me when I'll talk to someone in like a gym somewhere or something and I'll be like, oh, blah blah, I'm doing this. They're like, oh, you're a rower, and they're like, what's your name? And then I'm like, oh, Clark. And they're like, oh, okay, like you know I know you, or I have a friend who knows you, or my kid knows. It's like it's such a small sport, I
Oh,
think,
without a doubt.
which is one of the cool things about it. Like it obviously has its advantages and disadvantages, but I personally love how like pretty much there's like never more than 1 or 2 degrees of separation between any two
Any
rowers in the
rower.
country or the world, literally.
Yeah, I was at Worlds when I was in Sarasota,
Yeah.
3 years ago, and I'm
hmm
just walking around and I'm like talking to Olympians just about
Yeah.
rowing. No big
Yeah.
deal. It's just like the degree of separation within rowing is super small, but it's so cool. I think it's unique in its own way.
Yeah.
Honestly,
I think a lot of that is kind of professional sports, at least in America, versus like Olympic sports or amateur sports, whatever you want to call them. Because I was thinking about like how, like at Harvard and, all the Ivy League schools or all the big schools, you're going to have what are either soon to be Olympians or actual Olympians rowing in this literally in the same boat with, walk-ons and people who've never rowed before college.
right?
And, to think about college basketball or college football, the top of the top of the team is never going to play with the bottom of the team. And the bottom of the team, they're not even going to be walk-ons. They're going to be guys who played in high school, didn't get recruited, and are still trying out and have been cut down to like 10% of the number. So it's like, I think that's one aspect of, not just rowing, but kind of just amateur and Olympic sports in general. That's really cool is like, when I'm at school and when I was in high school, like I was rowing with people who, are probably going to do it for like a year or something,
Right.
or, there's just there are so many different levels of dedication and so many different aspects of the sport that people focus on. And, not everyone's rowing to become an Olympian. And it's refreshing a lot of times to row with people who don't have the exact same mindset and the exact same goals. It's pretty cool.
Without a doubt. And then you get some like dogs in there. You always have a character, at least for certain teams. I think all teams have it. You just have different characters, and some might stay for a year or two, like
Yeah.
three.
Yeah.
Some may only stay for one season. You never know, but you always get like a great character. And
Yeah.
I think they end up like using, you know what I'm saying? They end up putting out as much as they really want to into the sport, but like
Mhm.
still help you like stay competitive. Like
Yeah.
they're not wishy-washy in that sense, but they definitely are like it's come and go. You have characters
Yeah.
come and go all the time.
Yeah. And I think that's like when I talk to like high schoolers or even kids who are just starting out college rowing, like I think the most important thing is knowing what you want to get out of the sport, right? And not beating yourself up if you know don't exceed your own expectation. It's like you have to know if you're rowing in high school to get into college, then do that. If you're rowing in high school to like have fun with your friends, when it comes senior year and you don't get recruited and your friends do, you can't be too hard on yourself when you're like, okay, well, the past 4 years I haven't thought about college once, and now it's my
Right.
senior fall and I'm pissed that I'm not going to whatever school. It's like, once when you know what you want to get out of it, like, accept it and buy into it and always push yourself, sure, or change it. But I think that's what I think the most important aspect of definitely high school, but even like college rowing, really.
Yeah, and then I mean, aside from that as well, I mean, a part of that is the sport itself is also very mental. A lot of times, I think people make it so complicated, and I think that's where certain rowing might go poorly. Is just you gotta understand, you got to be in the right mindset. You got to be
Yeah.
positive. You have to have a positive outlook on all things, and you got to try
Yeah.
to just make it work together. I mean,
Yeah.
rowing is the sport that everybody talks about teamwork and everything like that.
Yeah.
But like, you definitely need that sense of like, yo, what direction are we headed? You know what I'm saying?
Right. Yeah. For sure. For sure. It's definitely a big team sport.
Without a doubt. One thing I will say is, uh, I row up in the Midwest, so our teams are kind of like the North or the East Coast, type teams, like
Mhm.
very like traditional and blah blah blah. Every time, like with the first time I ever got to Florida, my freshman year at Jacksonville, I learned about all these different like clubs that you guys have in Florida and how like
Yeah.
it just sounds kind of like it could be a TV show of some sort. It just sounds like there's a lot of different characters. Like I heard there's a crew that comes in with like a drum or something like that. Every
Yeah.
time I hear something about Florida crews or Florida like club teams, something different. How can you explain that? Can you explain that?
Yeah. I think the whole like club versus school phenomenon is pretty weird and pretty unique to rowing, at least as far as I've seen, where it's super regional, right? Like in the Northeast, and it sounds like in the Midwest, it's all just it sounds like it's all just like schools.
Yeah,
Where in the Southeast and then the West Coast, it's like all clubs, or at least all the top performers are clubs. And then nationally, it's a bit of a mixed bag, somewhat clubs, I guess, recently. But then when you look at other countries, it just completely runs the gamut. Like in England or whatever, it's all schools.
right.
Like it's all schools. But yeah, no, I think Florida clubs are definitely like pretty unique, and they definitely run. Even within Florida, it's a pretty weird like microcosm of the country, because there are a few schools that have been around forever, like Winter Park, for example,
Right.
who schools are old, their teams are old. They have weird old dual races with other schools that go back like a long time. So that in that respect, it's very, traditional, like Northeast, prep schools, like you think of rowing in America. But there's absolutely, Sarasota crew hasn't been around for, I don't know how many years it's been around, but less than 20,
You're
in
right.
any kind of modern capacity. So it's definitely interesting to see all these like different ways to develop the sport, develop teams, whether it's school, club, whatever, traditional, kind of, a little bit untraditional or unorthodox. Like Sarasota, there's a lot of kids now who will stop going to, like their public school, and they'll do homeschool just so that they can row twice a day. So
Right.
that's something that, you're never going to see at like a Belmont Hill, because the school is the team, right? Like you
Right.
can't drop out of school to row. You have to be at school to row. It's definitely pretty interesting.
I was thinking, I would always make this joke when I was in school. I was like, look, if Disney decided, hey, let's put some money aside, let's start a rowing team, let's start a little rowing club, I feel like they would be the powerhouse of Florida. I mean, they have all the resources. They definitely could find coaches and stuff like that. But I always made that joke because it's just like,
Yeah.
I don't know. I guess club is just kind of, I don't know. It's not unique to Florida, but I feel like Florida definitely has that like unique vibe.
Yeah, I agree with that for sure.
Especially with like another thing that like you guys do in Florida compared to the rest of the nation is you guys have sculling and sweeping,
Mhm.
championships, which is something I've never heard of either. Because usually for our region, we'd have all of that would be in one
Right.
go.
Right.
It is what it is. What do you got to say about that?
Yeah, no, I think I feel super lucky to have been like born and raised here, because I, just like you said, there are two different state championships, right? There's like the sculling and the sweep. And it made it super easy, where you never had to pick between the 8 or the quad, or the 8 and the single or whatever, because you could just, a week before sculling states, row the quad, race that, then next 2 weeks row the 8, race that, which I think that helps, a lot with development, when people from whatever age they get involved with they don't have to pick one or the other.
Right.
And there's no, there's nothing left behind if they go to one route or the other, and you can just kind of split it down the middle, skull one day, sweep the next, and you're not going to be giving anything up.
All right, and let me just clarify for all our non-rowers that are going to be watching this. Sculling has to do with two oars. So usually you see that in a single, a quad, double, etc. There's an octuple, but we're not going to get that complicated. And then sweeping is just with one oar. So what you might see in, I don't know, the Social Network, if you've seen that movie. Let's see. One last thing I want to say. Okay, so did you start out sculling or did you start out sweeping?
The first time I rowed was in an 8. I started rowing at like a summer camp when I was in middle school.
Okay.
And we just had a bunch of 8s out there. But pretty quickly I started sculling more than I swept, at least through middle school. And then my like 8th grade and freshman year, then pretty much my 8th grade through freshman year of college, it was about 1-to-1 sculling to sweep. Okay. And college is obviously like pretty much all sweep. Every once in a while I'll go out in a single. Then with the national team, it's just been sweep. And at this point, I was thinking the other day, I haven't been in a single for like maybe like a year and a half.
Really?
Like February of 2019, maybe.
That's insane.
Yeah.
All right, so let's talk a little bit about your time at Sarasota. So how long were you rowing at Sarasota?
Yeah, so I started rowing like the summer going into my 6th grade year.
Okay.
So 6th and 7th grade, I rowed on like the middle school program. So Sarasota has like, most schools have, freshman through senior year. A lot of clubs will have, a novice year, which is 8th grade.
Right.
Sarasota has, freshman through seniors varsity, or, maybe sophomores through seniors varsity. Then they have a freshman team, and they have their novice team. And then when I was growing up, they had a middle school team, and now they're down to elementary school.
Man.
So they're really starting kids young. So I was lucky enough to be part of the middle school team, which, it's not like it's, 6 or 7 days a week of hard practice. I think it was 2 or 3 days a week. And, if the water was bad, we'd be doing like relay races on land. So they kept it fun. They kept it light, but it is good. And I think it's important to get kids involved and just like comfortable that early, right? Because anyone at any point in your life can just sit on an erg and get fitness. Yeah. But like you're saying, like you're not going to be able to be flexible and like adaptable and sync up with people and make those fine-tuned changes unless you've been rowing for however long or comfortable enough to, be confident in, changing and tweaking your stroke and being adaptable.
Right. So question, would you back the statement that it is beneficial to start rowing that early?
Yeah. I think it depends on the person, right? You can't make a blanket statement.
Right.
There are definitely people who, I definitely know people who started in middle school, started going, full-time, working out 5 days a week in 8th grade, but then by their senior year, they're just like done with the sport. Right. They're just like, they're just burnt out. But, I started in 6th grade, started really actually training hard in maybe like 8th grade. And, I went straight through, went to college, or I'm still in college, trained with the national team. And I don't feel burnt out, and I don't, regret starting that early at all. Like, I think it just depends on the person. I think in general, if you're just looking at it from, if you're just training like a robot, right, and they have no emotions, like the more time you spend rowing and the earlier you start, the better, from a physiological and technical point of view. But then the question just becomes based on the person, on each individual person's mentality and their goals and whatnot.
I feel that. But yeah, I would definitely say. So when did you start doing like development training, like development for the national team? Did you start early on?
Yeah. So the first time I did any of the national team stuff was like, so my freshman year. So every winter, or at least when I was in high school, every winter there was a camp in Sarasota where they invited everyone on the East Coast who they were thinking could potentially make the national team, right, or the junior national team.
Right.
My freshman year, I was like not fast enough to make it at all. But one of the kids on Sarasota who was invited, he like got a concussion while we were doing this. Like, our team has this tradition where we do this like wrestling, fighting like thing that we call square game. So he got a concussion during that, so he couldn't show up. So they invited me, but I also had a broken like toe because of the same thing.
Right.
So I show up in like a boot, and I row with like one foot, but I like row at this junior national team camp with all these guys who are like way older than me and way better than me. And then so then that summer I didn't do anything, but then the next summer I went to the actual like selection camp in the summer, and that's when I kind of started off with the national team.
All right, that's pretty dope. And then now you're on this trajectory for like, being on the national team during an Olympic year. This was supposed to be an Olympic year. How does that feel? How does it feel that the Olympic year is just kind of like, it's not an Olympic year?
Yeah, no, I mean, it's definitely, I think it's above anything, it's unexpected, right? Like I always thought, when I planned, when I like officially, declared that I'm going to take the year off for my what would have been my sophomore year, right? The 2019-2020 season, which would have been my sophomore year. I was like, okay, I'm going to take the year off, and best case scenario, train for a year with the U.S. team, go to the Olympics, row with the U.S. team, do well, then come back as a sophomore in the fall of 2020. Then I was like, okay, and then the worst case scenario is I train for a year, get a little bit better, get a little bit faster, have a summer of doing pretty much nothing, and then come back as a sophomore.
Right.
So I was like, that's the worst case scenario.
Yeah.
And like, why not? Like, if that's the case, I'm not going to regret having taken a year off, right?
Of course.
And then, this happens, and I'm like, okay, so the Olympics didn't even happen. Going back as a sophomore, it means just doing classes online.
Yeah.
Like nothing in person. And, now I have to kind of strategize and figure out if I want to try to go in 2021. So it's definitely just a million extra like variables and unexpected things have happened in the past like 6 months. But like at the end of the day, I can't do anything about it. It's not like I'm going to be able to get the IOC to move it back to this summer, or like you gotta roll with the punches sometimes. So that's what I've been trying to do these past few months.
I feel that. So throughout, like, how has COVID affected you? Just, I guess, personally, mentally, that aspect.
Yeah, I mean, it really has just so the first thing that it did to affect us was, because we were all out in Oakland when it was starting to really get bad training.
Mm-hmm.
And we're rowing twice a day, working out, we're getting close to the like formal selection camp, and it's all selection when you're out there, but we were getting close to like narrowing it down to like 16 or 18 guys for the 12 to 16 spots, if you count spares, right, for the Olympics. So we're really getting down to the end there. And then, COVID started happening, and then it was like, okay, we're not going to row. We're all just going to erg on our own. So took an erg from the boathouse and like erging in the garage. And like looking back now, it's like hilarious to me how I thought at the time, like, oh, it's just going to be like in here for a few weeks. Then we're going to go somewhere in the middle of nowhere. We're going to train, get the boat selected, whatever. It's going to be fine. And then like it really started sinking in when, because initially, Japan and the IOC, they're like, the games are going to go on, period. Like we're going to have them, period. And then I remember like one day the IOC said, we're going to start to explore what it would even look like to postpone them. We're just going to start to think about what it would possibly look like to postpone them. And I'm like, okay, it's done. Because they're not going to walk back from there, right? Like they're going to be like, okay, now we're starting to think, what is it going to look like if we push it back a year? Like, okay, well, it's actually not, like they're not going to walk back.
It's not that bad.
Yeah. Like they said that, I'm like, okay, I'm done. And then like, it's over. And then it was 2 days later where they were like, okay, they're officially postponed. And we had like some hard workout on the erg that afternoon, and the announcement came out. I messaged the group chat immediately. I'm like, so are we doing these pieces this afternoon or what? Like, but that's kind of, that was kind of the start of the kind of domino effect of, coming home because there's no point in being out there.
Right.
Figuring out what I'm doing with school, figuring out what I'm doing this next year in general. But
I feel that. Our last week before everything got shut down was our spring break. So we were spring break training. We just got finished racing Embry-Riddle. It was probably one of the worst races, in all honesty, I've ever been in. But we just narrowly got the dub.
And then you guys probably like almost flipped, right? Like the water was just awful, wasn't it?
Oh, it was so awful. I was like, what is this? And my coach was like, that was the worst performance I've ever seen. And he was like, but at least we have more races to go. And I'm like, oh, hell yeah, hell yeah. We
Yeah.
took out that whole week. I mean, we were just grinding.
Right.
And then we're all casually just looking at rowing Reddit, just looking at how many teams are gone. And we're like, okay. I sit down and we were watching we had a team movie, and I decided to pick Shaun of the Dead. So we watched Shaun of the Dead.
Mm-hmm.
And we got home, we were all chilling, getting ready for practice in the morning. We had like pair matrices and stuff. And all of a sudden I'm like, I got a bad feeling about this. I was like, I don't think that this is gonna happen. Like, I don't think we're gonna be rowing anymore.
Yeah.
And then all of the teams, like legitimately, I hit up all my friends from all like the other teams. They're like, yeah, our season got canceled. How about, are you guys still having practice? And it was like, yeah, we're still having practice. And we had this huge, man, it was crazy. We had this huge like dance like battle. Like we would dance before practice in our erg room. And we were just like, yeah. And we're like, yeah, we're number one in the nation because we're the only team.
Yeah, last one standing, right?
Last one standing. And then we had like a little like senior like send-off practice. Yeah. But yeah, no, we knew at some point, once everybody was starting to say, all these other teams are starting to say, oh yeah, we're done. What are you guys doing? I got like, I kid you not, I got like 10 text messages that whole week like, hey, what are you guys up to? And I'm like, damn, it's game over, dude.
Yeah. Yeah.
And it's crazy how fast it switched though. Isn't that crazy?
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, it's crazy. Well, I don't know. We'll see what happens this year, right? Like, because apparently, at least at Harvard, they haven't technically canceled the spring season. So I was talking to like a compliance officer or something yesterday at Harvard, and they were like, okay, well, if the spring gets canceled, then blah blah blah. And I was like, is the spring not canceled? He's like, no, they're they're still planning on having one. I was like, okay, well, I'm doing the math here. There's going to be about 5 people on the Harvard team this year. They're like, there's going to be about like 5 Harvard rowers enrolled in school this year who aren't taking gap years. Because I think at least at Harvard, kind of the go-to of the athletes is just take a gap year. Then hopefully in the fall of 2021, it'll all be back to normal. Go back, finish whatever years you have left, just as normal. But
I mean, it's gonna be kind of weird. I think this is gonna be weird for the next like year and a half. We just gotta accept it. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. You really just have to like be flexible, I think, above all else.
So you just kind of mentioned it just a little bit with your friend getting concussion and you messing up your foot. Let's talk about like some team culture. I feel like a lot of people have to understand that like we're all like young men. So we all have a sense of humor. We all do kind of pretty pathetic things if you think about it in the long run, but it's a lot of fun at the time. So what type of team culture have you had in Sarasota? And then I guess so far in at Harvard, I know you only had 1 year, but that's 1 full year. So
Yeah, no, I think team culture is obviously, I mean, people don't not appreciate it, but if anything, it is undervalued because it was such a different feel going from Sarasota to Harvard just because there were all of these things, all these like team traditions and whatnot set in place at Harvard that have been there for 150 years or something, right? So it's like it was kind of, especially freshman year, it's like, okay, well, we're doing this day because we've been doing it this way for 150 years. Then the next day we're doing this, and it's like all fun stuff and great stuff. But it was so different than Sarasota, where it's pretty much, it's like you come up with something, you ask the coaches for permission, and then you do it, right? And then like the next year, you're like, can we do it again? Like, no. Okay, well, can we do this? Yes. Like, it's like totally on the fly, kind of like improvised, just like crazy stuff that you do. So, I mean, in that way, Sarasota, we never knew what was coming, right? Like my favorite week of rowing ever. Favorite week of rowing ever was my senior year. We convinced the coach to let me and then these 2 other seniors who were like my best friends, and we each we sit around a table and we do like draft pick of 8 guys, a coxswain, a boat, and oars, right?
Yeah.
And we go like 1, 2, 3, 3, 2, 1, 1, 2. So they're like in theory totally even boats. We have like even equipment, coxswains, oars, and then we spend Monday through Friday with us, these 3 seniors as the coaches. Like we're not even in the boats. Like we're in the launches and on land giving them workouts, like coaching them. And then that Saturday, we race a 2K at Benderson, 3 boats across.
Oh, that sounds
And,
like so much fun.
and like immediately, like that Monday night after we had announced the boats, we all go to like this burrito place, Moe's, for like Monday nights.
Yeah.
And like, we're all sitting with our boats. We all have like team names. We're all making Instagrams and like hype videos and everything. And then we're like getting into like wrestling matches in the parking lot like, that night, and like that. And like I look back on that, and the coolest thing was, I'm coaching one of the teams, and there's guys in these boats who are now rowing at like Harvard, Brown, whatever, potentially going to be Olympians. And then
Right.
also in the boat with them are kids who didn't even finish through that spring season, and they're going like 740. And they like they're rowing for fun, but
Right.
it doesn't matter. Like down every single boat, everyone was like so committed to that race, to that week.
Yeah.
Just like pushing the other people. Like I'm getting texts from people who they'll show up to like one practice a month. They'll be like, did you look at my video? Like, what should I do? Like, what should I be thinking about? Like everyone was just so involved. And like,
That's so much
kind
fun.
of stuff where it's like when everyone buys into something like that across a team, it's so much fun and it's productive.
Definitely for the love of the sport, without a doubt. Yeah, we have a few like things like that, but I think a lot of fun that we had a women's team, right? And we'd row with them, and they would always talk mess. And it's like, why are you guys talking? Let's stop talking. Let's race. Yeah. And our coach would always set up these so the Cuyahoga River in Cleveland, it caught on fire in the like 70s or something like that, and a lot of people make fun of it. But there's a lot of pollution there, even still to this day. And my coach would find these like things, like a bottle or like like Wilson, like a freaking volleyball. He just finds these like random knickknacks around the around the freaking lake, and the river. And he's like, all right, we're gonna race for the whatever the object is of the day. Like this is the cup. And he's like, we need to like buy into this. Let's all go for this. And we would get so hyped about winning this like dirty basketball that is like as awesome. Dirty as all get out.
Yeah. Like you don't want to touch them.
Yeah, and we'd be like, yeah, we got it. And like if the girls won that day, which rarely happened, their whole bus, because we would bus from our school to our boathouse, the whole ride back, they would just be cheering or like clowning us, like and it was like it is so much fun to just buy into something, even if it's like silly, like a whole week. I couldn't even imagine a whole week of like building that up. But like in school, we had winter training. So for winter training, the team that has the most amount of points, that just means that you did the most training or whatever. You won a little knickknack, or you won more team gear or something. But we only did it for bragging rights. Yeah. So my friend Joel, he will go off for so long. I kid you not. He will legitimately stay on the earth for like 6 hours a day just for fun. And he'd be like, yeah, I was just watching something on my Prime device, whatever. And I was just putting in meters. But like we would have so much fun, and we would roast the other teams. And we have like international students too. And we'd be like, what are you guys up to? And they'd always be sending us videos of them clubbing. And we're like, oh, so you're clubbing, but you're not like putting in meters?
Oh. No, that's the best part of any sport, right? Well, I mean, and then the thing is, like, when you think about it, what are any races other than at some point, like a bunch of old boys sitting down there like, guys, let's go do this race, get this big cup. Like that's what everything is. It's just how serious or not you take it. Like, I mean, what are the Olympics other than people, if you go back to ancient Greece, like thousands of years ago, saying like, let's get the best person from each village and make them compete. And then the winner is like the Olympian, and they're like a god, like that's what all competition is. Like at some point, it's who came up with it and when. So it's like, I think if you can't get around stuff like that, like if you can't get around racing for a dirty basketball and like, working your tail off and doing anything to win to get this dirty basketball, then like, you got to have that mentality where that's the competition, right? And whatever the competition is, even if it's like race to that sign, race to that channel marker, like that, like, why is that not as serious as real races, right? It's just who makes them up at what time is all that the difference is.
All that really matters, honestly.
Yeah.
It's so dope though. I love the sport without a doubt, and I think I don't know. Do you feel that like rowing sometimes is cultish?
Yeah, I think it goes hand in hand with the I think there are a few reasons that like lead the sport to be like that, right? Like I think part of it is how small sport is because
Right.
if you're with some friends who aren't rowers and then you see someone who they're in a group of people who don't row but they row, immediately you can be like, oh, this guy, this guy, and they'll be like, yeah, well, and like immediately the vocabulary is not as accessible to everybody else as if you're like a soccer or football player, right? Like you're not going
Right.
to be like, oh, I'm the whatever, I'm the quarter, like you see a rower, you're going to instantly be like, oh, did you hear about like this guy's erg, and then at this race they like caught a crab and all this. Like the vocabulary means nothing to people who aren't rowers, for one.
Right.
And the second you see any other rower, you're gonna run through the checklist of people to like see how you know them, because inevitably within like 30 seconds you're gonna be like, oh, okay, so we both have rowed with this person, because
Right.
it's such a small world. So I think in that way it is cultish, and I think it really just stems from the sport being so small, because if two football players are walking the street and see each other, or like if
There's
you're walking
countless of teams, right?
right,
There's so many teams.
and you see like someone with some random football team's name on their shirt, like no way you're going to stop them. But if I see anybody with a US rowing bumper sticker, or they have any oars on their shirt, I'll be like, oh, you're a rower, like where do it's that kind of
It's instant.
tight knitness, tight knitted
Knitness. Yeah, you got
yeah, whatever the word is.
it. I'm trying to think. So moving from Sarasota to Boston, tell me, how was your freshman year of Harvard? Was it something new? Was it how would you describe it? Because I know Sarasota is still very like city like. I mean, I know more about like the mall and like the obviously the race course, but like, and then it's a little more private because I've stayed with some of my teammates who rode at Sarasota and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
So I understand like the whole layout and everything, but what was different between Sarasota and Boston?
Yeah, I think the like the biggest difference was with kind of how the day would be structured, where I think this is in general going from like high school to college, right? Like high school, you have school from either like 7 or 8 a.m. to whatever, like 2 or 3 in the afternoon every day. And then you build your day around that. And then you have the weekends, where you get to college and it's like, okay, pick your classes. And it's like, oh, this class, they meet once a week for 90 minutes, right? And like your days in college are just not a single one is like, week to week they can look somewhat similar, but your Monday is not going to look like your Tuesday. Your Tuesday is not going to look like your Wednesday. And it's the same thing with training. Like in high school, we basically had practice 4 p.m. to 7 p.m. And depending on the year or what my school schedule looked like, I'd try to get in a workout in the morning. In college, there are some days where I'll go down to the boathouse and we're doing racing, and I'll do like one race, and then I'll have to like jump off the water, like take a shower and like run up to class. And then there are some days where, I'll go down there and have a massive session on like a Wednesday morning, and then go eat breakfast, and then go take like a 3-hour nap because I don't have any classes. So I think part of that is, you definitely need there's a level of maturity that goes along with being in college, obviously. And, you have to make your schedule. You have to find time for everything, whether it's, school, sports, or social, or, any extracurriculars. So I think that was, it's definitely a big adjustment, right? Like having to create your schedule, manage all these things. And then of course, going from like Florida to Boston, I was like so terrified of the winter. But my freshman year, the winter was like pretty mild. It wasn't.
Yeah, I was gonna say you got a mild winter, I think.
Yeah, so it wasn't bad, but I think that those were the main adjustments. Is just trying to like, I actually had to like get a Google Calendar app and be like, okay, I have class from here to here. I have this from here to like, and you couldn't just be like, okay, school, rowing, sleep, weekend, school, rowing,
Yeah. Okay, so let's talk about this. So Harvard has a lot of different like cups, a lot of different racing schedules. I'll clarify this for people who aren't rowers still. Basically, they're just duels, but they win. So one-on-one racing for different categories of boats and whatnot. I feel like that's a bit too complicated to explain to people on that end, but you guys race for a cup. How is that different from like the rest of racing or rest of rowing, I guess? Because it just has so much tradition and stuff, right?
Yeah, I really like it because I think the format of college rowing really kind of enables this, week to week you're having a duel, and then you're looking at all the other duels around the country, and you're trying to piece together information. You get a little bit more information each week on how this team is doing based on how they're going against that team that you went against, or you went against someone who went against them, and you're trying to piece together this information, and then the whole season culminates in, for Harvard at least, it's Eastern Sprints, and then the national championship, and then Harvard Yale. And those three are like 1, 2, 3, like that. So it's like you start off with, I think we have like 6 or 7 duels, and it's pretty much, they're all just a week apart, a couple or 2 weeks apart. And you're slowly, getting used to racing, getting used to the 2K, kind of getting a feel for what all the other teams are like. And then it's Eastern Sprints, and then it's essentially Eastern Sprints again, except with, Cal and Washington, and then it's Harvard Yale, and then the season's over. So I think compared to high school, I really like the format because, you're getting pieces of information about these other teams, which keeps it exciting and keeps, there's some unknown quantity, because you can't directly say, okay, I beat this guy by 5 seconds, he beat him by 10.
Right.
I'm 5 seconds behind. You can't do that because conditions change, boats change. But I think as far as the format goes, it's a pretty well thought out format, and leads to like, exciting championship races for sure.
So on the athletic side, I know a lot of people are afraid of. I know a lot of rowers are afraid of the 2K test. You yourself, you've had a record or something like that, right, for 2K?
Yeah, I don't know. The erg records are also like, the ages are weird. You have to do them at a official event. I don't know.
Yeah,
There's
like
American ones
you gotta have a
and
code or whatever, right, on the
yeah,
concept
like
or whatever.
yeah.
Yeah. How do you go into attacking pieces? So attacking like 2K,
Well, I
whatever
think
type piece.
this is kind of the thing that I've realized is I think I've been getting less nervous before races and pieces or whatever as I've gotten older, because I think it's kind of like, when I was in 8th grade and I sat down for like my first 2K in that spring, and I was like, okay, like I think it was like break 7 or something. I was like so nervous. I remember sitting there, I had a heart rate monitor on, and before we started, my heart was like 180 or something.
Yeah.
I'm like, freaking out. And now, because I didn't know what was going to happen, because I didn't have the experience. I had done whatever, like 2Ks before. But now at this point, I've done, just with Sarasota, I've probably done like 32Ks. Then at Harvard, we did 1. The national team, I actually have not done 1. But, I've done enough pieces where, if I know where my fitness is going to be, so I know roughly where I'm going to end up. And I know at the end of the day, no matter what I think during the piece, I'm going to be able to finish it. So even if I'm racing or on the water or on the erg or whatever, like what I think is I'll allow myself to think like, this sucks. There's like no way I can hold this pace, whatever, but I just have to keep doing it. Like if I'm 500 meters in, I'm like, I can't do this for 1500 meters. Like I let myself think whatever I want, but just continue to do it while you're thinking. And then eventually it's over. And I think like part of that also is with like, what I notice is let's say I have a 2K in like 3 months from today, right?
Yeah.
Like my anticipation and the nerves kind of ramp up going into it. Then it starts, I do it, then I finish. And whenever I finish a piece, especially on the erg, if it's like a test piece, I finish and I go, wow, I was like so nervous about that. And it's like nowhere near as bad as like I'm not.
It's done.
It's done. And and I always think at the end of every 2K, I'm like, next 2K, like remember that it's just not even that bad. And then, if then the next 2K at the start, I'm thinking like, I know in 10 minutes from now, I'm going to be like, okay, that was not as bad as I expected. And it's over. So,
because I would say after my freshman year, like you're speaking on just like I'm doing 2Ks off experience and just doing pieces of test pieces and races like that. At some point, you're just like, you've done this so many times, do it, and then it kind of feels a lot faster when you're just like, oh, I did it. Like it's not a big deal.
Yeah,
I think a lot of kids do freak out about that. What advice would you give to any young aspiring rower, or forget it, any athlete that wants to perform on an elite level?
Yeah, I think I think it obviously depends on the sport, right? But I think if you're talking about rowing, at some point, at some point in competitiveness, like at the first, I think the vast majority of rowers are, it's all going to be about the time that they spend on the erg or water, or just the time that they spend doing the sport and the focused mileage that they do, right? Like you need to row well and you need to be strong. Those are like the two aspects of the sport they need to get good at for 99% of the rowers. Then once you get to the point where you're a really, really elite rower, and I remember it was like, basically, I think it was like the winter of my freshman year at Harvard, and I was at home and I was erging, and I was like, okay, I'm literally doing nothing other than erging and sleeping for these next like 6 weeks before our training camp starts. And I'm just at home erging in my garage, right? I was like, if I was going to write a training program for like a robot, like literally just a robot, and I was going to think, okay, what could I possibly have this person do to just get as fast as possible with no regard for, like fatigue, time, anything like that.
Right.
And I'm just going to write that and see how long I can stick to it. And after like a week, I was like, I can just do this. Once you get over the mental, like, I don't even know. It's, if you, like a standard workout is like 3 by 20 minutes, right?
Right.
Once you finish the second piece, you're going to be, if you're really going in your steady state, you're going to be exactly as tired after the first as you will after the second, after the third.
Right.
So then it's like, at some point you have to say, okay, well, what would it really cost me to just do a fourth? What would it really cost me to just do a fifth? And it really does depend on how big of a part of your life training is at that moment. Like right now I'm rowing once a day and I'm working and I'm doing other stuff. So it's not like I am working out 5 hours a day, twice a day. But if that's all you're doing, then you can really push yourself and just stay out of your own head and be like, okay, objectively, can I do another piece? Should I do another piece? Should I do another session? And then once you go through that dialogue and go past what you think your limits are for even just a few days in a row, it kind of just like opens up your headspace. At least it did for me in that training block. And then, at a point it becomes managing your body, right? And managing your recovery.
Right.
And I always think like, if I didn't have to worry about, like blowing on my back, breaking a rib, doing whatever, like overworking myself, like it would be so easy to be the best rower in the world, because you just think, okay, I'm just going to sit on the erg for 8 hours.
Yeah.
But of course, in reality, that's not the way to get as fast as possible, because you're going to break something, right?
Right.
At a certain level, that becomes the concern, is managing your body, managing injuries and your fatigue level. But I think for the vast majority of people, it's just the time you put in and the time you can make yourself put in having focused mileage, whether on the erg or the water.
Yeah, it's kind of crazy. Kobe and Michael Jordan had the same trainer, and his trainer, his name was Tim Grover, I believe. He said the only difference between Jordan and Kobe is that Kobe didn't handle managing his injuries and little knickknacks the right way that Jordan did. I mean, Jordan is considered the GOAT, right, in basketball, whatnot, but Kobe's right behind him, I believe, even though I'm a LeBron fan, big LeBron fan. But yeah, I mean, there's a difference between that. I think people do have to understand that. It's you definitely can. You can definitely put in a shit ton of work. You can definitely train a lot, honestly, but you do have to look out for your body, make sure that you're staying. I guess strength and conditioning does go along with that as well, because it does kind of keep you in the right spot. You know what I'm saying? At least I know a lot of rowers have back issues and stuff like that. So I guess just maintaining that. But great insight for everybody.
Yeah, for sure.
The next topic, I don't know. Do we have to be secretive about this, Clark? I don't know. Can we talk about the boys in the public, or?
I think here's the thing about the boys, right?
Yeah.
It has changed in what it is, and the kind of content that you see in there. The whole idea, right? I mean, there's just a ton of dudes in there. There's 5,000 or something.
Yeah.
And
it's 5,000 nuts.
The whole idea behind it is just see what happens if you just get all these dudes in one setting where it's it is moderated somewhat, right? Like if someone is posting something that's like
Outlandish. Right.
questionably like legal or like a scam or trying to get money, then I'll delete it and kick them. But other than that, like I don't delete anything, right? Like I don't get involved with anything. I just like let it run its course. And it's just like it's like almost like an experiment,
Yeah, I was
just
gonna say it's a great social
yeah,
experiment. In
it's
all
just like
honesty.
seeing how these like literally over 5,000 dudes just interact, and most of them just will see that they're added to something and do nothing. But I mean, there are some posts in there that get like several hundred likes, and like I don't. It's the whole thing has been so, it's just been like above anything. It's been interesting, and what's funny to me is like I've seen like maybe 1 or 2 times ever in the I don't even know like 8 years of it existing. I've seen like maybe 1 or 2 times where anyone has been mean to anybody.
Right.
Like everyone is like so nice. Like everyone's like, like, oh my, someone in my family is like sick, please pray for them. Then it's like 80 comments like I'm
Right.
not religious, but I'm praying, or like I'm praying, like hang in there, and it's people there are jokes about how nice people are in there about like, but at the end of the day, everyone is just genuinely really nice to each other and
Yeah.
very positive, which is like so weird and cool to see.
And I think that's so weird. I think that's so unique, just for the online community, because I feel like a lot of times we're able to break barriers. I feel like a lot of times we are like kind of like, oh, they make too many like areas of of that we're always like, they always try to divide and conquer us. You
Yeah.
know what I'm saying? Like,
Yeah.
oh, it's issues of white and black and all the time. But
Right.
like, if you look at straight internet culture, it's just like, hey, we're all genuine. We're all nice people.
Yeah.
We all have something that's gonna keep us in common, and like
Exactly.
we can always connect. Like, I
Yeah.
think that's what some people fail to see. I know a lot of people try to get political and stuff like that, but
Mhm.
no, honestly, like you can just connect on something. You might
Right.
disagree on a whole number of things, but you
Yeah.
probably agree on a whole nother
Yeah.
list of things too.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I definitely agree. I think that's the one thing that I've been seeing a little bit more of, and it's a little bit concerning. And I have no idea how it's going to go, but
Yeah.
like these days, there's definitely more stuff in there that's like starting to border on political, which I know, like statistically speaking, with 5,000 dudes, there are going to be people who disagree in there about a lot of things. But I mean, it's all been civil so far, and I think that's just something that is very rare to see now, is just respect for the other side and whatever the debate is. And it's like whatever side you're on, like understand no one out there is genuinely thinking that they're evil and they're trying to screw anybody over, right? Like everyone just has
Right.
their own thoughts and opinions that are like whatever created by their surroundings and how they grew up and the influences they've had in their life. So I don't hold either side, I don't hold anything against either side unless it's obviously something like totally egregious. But if you're looking at the boys, for example, like everyone thinks they're doing the right thing. Everyone thinks that their opinions are helping people out, and what's best for the boys, what's best for country, the world, humanity, whatever. Like you can't hold it against anybody.
Yeah. And then with meme culture, I think that's another thing that just brings people together.
Yeah.
Just doing like ridiculous things just because it's ridiculous. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Uh, a year ago, it was like early June. We started this freaking
Yeah.
counting group chat on Instagram.
Yeah.
Started at 1, and I stayed up for a majority of that first night. Just
That
started
first day was
counting.
crazy. That first day was crazy.
It was insane. And then we're at like 55,000 now.
Yeah. Something
Yeah,
like that.
54, 339. I think it's hilarious, but
Well, the
I
whole,
don't know.
yeah, I think that like the counting chat is something to me that's been like, it's caused for a lot of like introspection on my part, because it started kind of just because that guy, Mike Langell, the big counter in it.
Yeah.
I saw videos of him. Did you see like his original counting Instagram
Yes.
profile?
Oh my
And this
goodness.
guy just has videos of
Hilarious.
him like yelling into the camera, just like numbers counting. And I just thought it was like the funniest thing ever. My friends and I were like, "Oh, this is just like, it's just like so out of nowhere." Who like what's the point of that? And then we started counting in our chat as just like this like little joke. And I was like, I want to just test like I just want to throw this group together, put him in it, and see what we can do in like 24 hours. I mean, first day we got to like 5,000 something,
Right.
right? Like,
Yeah.
and then Mike is like, oh, let's get to 1 million. And I was like, that is like that is such a big number. Like, that is such a big number to count every single number up to 1 million. But then I'm thinking, like, I don't know, am I going to be using Instagram when I'm 40? Like, is the app still going to exist? Like, I don't know. Like, Vine has been like deleted and stuff. Like, apps get deleted all the
All the
time.
time. Yeah.
But at this point, it's like, it's like spiritual to me in a way. Like, I want to see, and like, I've talked to people about it, and who are in the chat, who have been in the chat, who want to be in or wanted to be in the chat at some point. And they're like, yeah, I mean, why do you still count there? It's like, it's not even like funny anymore. I'm like, to me, it's not a joke anymore. I want to
Yeah.
like push.
I want to see where we could get.
I just want to like push human attention, focus, whatever. How, like, can I really be counting in an Instagram group chat with no reward? Like, there's literally no reward whatsoever. Like, there's no reward. All it is it is a waste of time. It is like, it takes up time. It takes up energy. You have to think about it and worry about it for a goal that we just randomly, like, obscurely made, or Mike made, for
Right.
no basis in anything. Just said,
Let's
can we
go
do
for
a
it.
million? And you made a goal like, hey, in 20 years, can I be at this point? And it's not like 20 years is a very relaxed timeline. We're behind schedule a little bit. Like, our first year, we were a few thousand ahead of schedule. Now we're a little bit behind. Like, it's going to be like, not, probably in the top 10 priorities of my day every day for the next 20 years, which is just like, I don't even know. There's something
Ludicrous.
spiritual and philosophical about that, isn't
Oh,
it?
without a doubt. Yeah, yeah. And the thing is, like, I can just start plugging in. And if somebody else is active and they're
Yeah.
ready to go start counting,
Yeah.
I miss we used to do that, where we used to
Yeah.
have like,
That's the
all
thing.
right, we got a team of 4. Let's go right now. Let's just
Yeah.
start counting. But no, I think you should always have something to just stick with. And for me, I do it before I go to practice. I do it when I was out drinking with some of my teammates. But it was just I want to reach a goal of some sort. Like, even if it's not like we're not gonna win anything because of this. We're not gonna get any real attention for counting to 1 million. But hey, it's doing something, and it's a community too. So now it's like it
That's
turns
the thing.
into a little side joke, right?
I mean, that's pretty much like. No, I guess I did know you before that, right? But there are a lot of people in there who I just met because I put something on Instagram like, "Yo, let me know if you want to be in this counting team." And like, people who I've never met before, and they're like, "Oh, add me," and I'm like, "Okay." Like, there's literally zero credentials. Like, I don't care whether you're like 14 or like 55. If you want to be in the counting chat and you're gonna count and not send random stuff and get
Right.
off task, like, I'll add you, and let's go. Like, let's go
for it.
Anyone who wants to get involved, like, even if it's just for like a year. Like, we've cycled a few people out when they get inactive, because that's the thing. Like, it's crazy how there's a 32 person limit on the group chat, and there's 32 people in there, but it's there aren't too many regular counters, and I think it's like a testament to. I don't even know, and I don't even know if I'm on the right side of those people. Like, it is like stupid, but I don't know. I just want to see how far we can go. It's like, it's something I've been thinking about kind of a lot recently. Where it's like, it's objectively speaking a waste of time. But
Right.
I don't know, man.
And my teammates, they would say, "So you're just counting? Like, that's it?" Yep. Yeah. That's it. I want to see what we're trying to see what we're trying to get to.
Yeah. Don't
how
hate
far we get there.
Yeah.
That's hilarious. But look, you gave a lot of great insight, Clark. What would you here? Well, this will be the last question. What do you think how do you think the future's gonna play out for you, rowing wise, and what's been your favorite race so far?
So I'll do the future first. I think it's almost impossible to predict because there's so much stuff going on with the virus and whatnot.
True.
I think ideally, assuming that this whole year is just like a wash, and assuming that the Olympics happens in 2021, and then assuming that we go back to school normal in 2021 fall. Assuming all that, I think I'm going to be enrolled virtually, taking virtual classes, but I'm going to be training with the national team, try to make the Olympic team again, and then show back up to school in person in the fall, row with Harvard, and I'm trying to race, as many times as is going to be allowed with, eligibility, IRA, NCAA, Ivy League, whatever. So
Right.
I'm working on that. Favorite race is I don't know. It's a good question. Like, I think the most satisfying, I don't know. Like, as I get older and do more races, it sounds stupider and stupider, but winning youth nationals my senior year of high school
Yeah.
was just like, because that's the longest team that I've been. That's the longest I've been a part of a single team, right? Because I've been, at Sarasota Crew for, I don't know, 7-8 years,
Mm-hmm.
and always that was the goal from my 8th grade year. 8th grade year, I was in the lightweight 8. 9th, 10th, and 11th, I was in the varsity 8. We got 7th, 3rd, 3rd. And then my senior year, like, there were a lot of other seniors in the boat. I'm like, guys, I don't care. Like, if we get, I don't want to get 2nd. I don't want to get 3rd. I want to, if it was like, if I could take 2nd for sure, or a 1 in 100 chance of getting 1st, and then 99 out of 100 that I'm going to get last, I'll do that.
Yeah.
I want to get 1st, or I don't care what happens. And that's how we raced it. And it was, we're all high schoolers, and obviously the level of rowing is lower than college, lower than the national team, lower than what I've been a part of since. But like the passion in that boat, and just the grit of saying, like, there's no, it's us in a duel against whoever is 1st or 2nd. There's no other boats, and that's all that matters. And if we can't beat them, then it doesn't matter. We can stop rowing. We don't even have to finish. Like, all that matters is 1st or nothing. And that's how we raced it. And, it worked, and we won. And then it was the end of my high school rowing career. And it just was just such a good note to end on. It was just the most satisfying, the satisfying 6 or 7 or 8 years that I've ever had, in terms of one goal that I've had for so long, complete it with a bunch of my best friends, and then you're done. That's it.
And it's a testament. Especially if you've been rowing with friends for so long, like you were, testament to hey, this is our last dance. Let's go balls to the wall. Let's see what we can do. Yeah. And look, hey, for a lot of teams, and the crazy part is that I don't think a lot of people understand that. A lot of teams have that same goal in mind, but the team that ends up getting it is the team that ends up getting it. And to go balls to the wall and have that long journey, it must have been very satisfying, to say the least. For sure. And where was that? Was that in Sacramento?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's dope.
Yeah.
Clark, any last, statements you want to, I don't know, but you want to tell people anything, or you want to shout out your mom, or shout out your Osprey Olives? You got a whole bunch of things. Yeah,
for sure. I'll shout out to parents, of course. Always great. Osprey Olives, great company, great cause. It's been a fun journey trying to make this little olive business with some friends. But no, I think you've covered it pretty well. I think if anyone is interested in counting and taking part in this weird 20-year-long spiritual journey with us, either hit up either of us and we'll add you, right?
We'll get you in.
There's no requirements other than you're a little bit focused somewhat and just count, just grind. But other than that, pretty comprehensive questions here, comprehensive talks. I like what you do. It's good to be a part of. It's fun.
Well, no, hey, I'd love to have you on. You come on it anytime you want, man. And for sure, dude. I still gotta get you with a basketball lesson. Come on, man.
Oh yeah. Oh my God, man. You really have to teach me. That's I'll play. Whenever the guys are playing sports, whether it's baseball, football, soccer, I'm always yeah, let's go pick up a whatever, go for it. Basketball, I'm I'll do
test it out.
Unless it's with 2 guys who know that I'm bad, and then it's all just trying to get somewhat respectable. But that's my Achilles heel.
I'll tell you, man. Our coach actually had to ban us from playing basketball this spring because we would get all of our teammates involved, and we would try to get them come on, let's try it, and we would use it as extra training. Yeah, and I think that's where it kind of got iffy. Yeah. But I've had my friends, I think I have two like friends who are the same year as you, are like
Yeah.
still like, you know, you guys are around the same
Right.
age. Came and god awful. We used to play with them as like during official visits and whatnot.
Yeah.
God awful. And we just kept playing. And now they're like, oh, dude, they're nasty.
That's good. That's good
So
to hear.
I got you at some point. But thank you,
All right.
Clark, for joining. And
Yeah, man.
peace.
Thanks for having me.
Without a doubt, dude.
Yeah. All right, dude.
Catch you.